Right, so right then. Hi everyone, thank you very much for inviting me, or me and Sarah Lanny, who's going to be doing some talking, to your meeting. We're going to tell you about something that I sort of started together, and I started on my own, and then it's sort of become a joint venture, and it's become a bit more than just a joint venture because we've got lots of people involved. Now, the opening of this talk does contain one swear word, but I am not, it's not my swear word, I'm quoting somebody. Okay, so I'll warn you now. This journey starts in 2012. I was at a sales conference. I used to be in sales, I'm not anymore. I like administration, funny enough, and that's what I do. And for our guest speakers, we normally have people like we've had Lawrence Delalio, who most of you will know was captain of England rugby team and was in the team that won the World Cup in 2003. We've had Victoria Pendleton, Olympic athlete, Colin Jackson, and Dame Kelly Holmes, who's a heroine of mine, James Kahn, who's in Dragon's Den, and all these people. And I was looking down on the agenda, and after lunch, the talk was about taming tigers. And I thought, who's Jim Lawless for first? He's giving the talk, never heard of him. And what's he talking? What do I want to know about tigers for? I really don't need to know about taming tigers. And anyway, this guy got up on stage, tiny little guy, and he said, when you're in your nursing home and you sat there in your chair, there'll be two questions. Here comes the word. Okay. There'll be two questions you ask yourself. The first question is, do I stink of piss? And the second question is, did I write my life story or did I let the tiger write it? And what the tiger is the voice in your head which says, you can't do that. That's too hard for you. There's no way you'll do that. And he went on to explain about all the rules and all the strategies that he uses to beat the tiger. And I thought, he's got a point, that guy. He's got a point. Are you going to stay in now? Are you staying in? Yeah. I'll wait for you to sit down. And he went through these 10 rules, and I thought, yeah, he's got a point. And at the time, I was a little chap. I was probably about 21 stone. I used to play rugby, and I still partake in the beer, but I didn't do the running around bit, so I just got bigger and bigger. And at the time, I used to live on the Isle of Wight. Does everybody know where the Isle of Wight is? Yeah. Some people think it's a tax haven. It's not. It's got 3 non-paying hotels, 3 prisons, and a few houses, and that's about it really. You have to put your watch back about 20 years if you go to the Isle of Wight. It's really not that forward. Anyway, I used to live on the Isle of Wight, but I worked near Gatwick Airport, which involved a ferry journey each day. And I thought, you know what, my challenge, I started. Jim Lawless rode a racehorse in a televised live race within 12 months of having never sat on a horse before. And he did a free dive down to 101 metres on one breath of air. So I thought that's quite impressive. I couldn't quite do that, but I needed a challenge. So I thought, do you know what I'll do? I'll swim that bit of water. I've always lived on that coast, and you look over and see the Isle of Wight, and I thought, do you know what? That's what I'm going to do. And so the first rule of taming tigers is to act boldly. So the first thing you must do is you must tell somebody you're going to do it. Because all the time it's an idea in your head, that's all it ever is. As soon as you've told somebody, it's real. Now you're going to think all of my mates are called Ron, but they're not. Because I was lodging with a guy called Ron. And I said, do you know what, Ron, I'm going to swim the Solent. Big belly laugh. And I rang my mate Ron Groves on the island. He's got a boat. I said, Ron, I need a boat. This is what I'm going to do. Big belly laugh. And I thought, well, this is a bit of a difficult challenge. It's going to be hard. I'll give myself a year to train for it, but I need a charity to do it for, because if I was just doing it for me, I'd give up next month, because there's no way I'd do everything I need to do this challenge. And I had a client that was on the committee on the Isle of Wight for MNDA, and I thought, I wonder if they'd like me to do it for them. So I went along to them and told them what I was going to do, and they all laughed. because I was like massive. I'm not small now, but I was even bigger then. But anyway, cut long story short, they said, yeah, I'd love you to do it, boys, I'd love you to do it for us. And up until March the following year, it was all about me and my challenge. And I thought, do you know what, I'll go to the AGM and I'll meet a few people with M&D, having never met anybody with M&D before. And I'll take my sponsor forms and I'll tell them what I'm going to do. And I actually left that room in tears because going to that meeting, it was all about my challenge and what I was going to do. Aren't I a great guy? And when I spoke to people with M&D and when I spoke to their families and I realised exactly what it is that they're going through, I thought, this isn't about me anymore, is it? And that changed the way I looked at everything. Then it became real. And then all throughout this, I was publicising what I was going to do. And a lot of it's done on the internet and the social media. And I'd met Sarah, and I'd met Sarah. Yeah. And she's not called Sarah like that.
That would have been really odd.
I'd met Greg, and I'd met a guy called Ian Pratt, who I didn't realise was Australian at the time, but we were talking. And then on the 30th of May, I met through a Facebook group called Weekend Wipeout, which is for people living with M&D. On the 30th of May, Sarah's son posted that Steve had died, Sarah's husband. And I'll tell you what, it really became very personal then, because all of a sudden it was somebody I knew. And anyway, cut a long story short, 4 of us did it the first year. We raised 5 grand. One of the guys that was my admin assistant stole the money, so it wasn't brilliant. He went to court, and but I'll try and get this to work now, because I do need this. The Solent is about 3.25 miles, but if anybody knows anything about the sea, you can't swim in a straight line because the sea doesn't let you. So we swim a lot further than that. In the first year, it was relatively easy, I suppose. The sea was nice and calm. There was, yes, really quick, isn't it? No. There was 4 of us that did it, and Ian Pratt came down, and we've lost the internet.
Right.
Come on, Greg.
Run.
I'll show you a map in a minute. So if we get the internet. If we get the internet to work, I can show you a map and you can see exactly where it is. When you see the news tonight and you see the weather map of England, right at the bottom in the middle there's a little diamond. That's the Isle of Wight. Great place. I met Ian Pratt through the internet, and I met Sarah. Sarah came down for that swim, and quite an achievement. And you would have thought that when I managed to swim across that bit of water, and as you're coming in to shore, you're looking down and you can see the seabed, you would have thought I'd have felt really euphoric and yes, I've done it. But I was fed up. I was absolutely distraught because this had been everything for 12 months, and what was going to happen next year? What was I going to do next? So what we decided to do, I rang Ian and said, look Ian, I'd quite like to make this an annual event, because we've got a bit of interest, a few other people want to do it, but rather than just be a swim for motor neuron disease, I'd like it to be for you. The idea was, we know that Ian's not going to be here forever, I wanted some sort of legacy for him, for his wife and daughter. So it became the Ian Pratt M&D Challenge, and we made it available to other swimmers, and in the second year we had 22 swimmers, and 21 made the crossing. One couldn't, one didn't make it, and I don't know what we raised that year. It was probably about 27 grand or something like that. And what we did that year, and you might see I've got some wristbands on. What we did that year is we actually decided that we were going to wear wristbands in honour of people, and Sarah's going to explain them.
Okay.
Oh, I will if you want. But
Now?
yes.
Oh, okay. I haven't got to do anything with that, have I?
No, what?
We're struggling there.
No. Well, we can do it without the internet. It's much better with the internet.
So, okay. I am the founder of Weekend Wipeout. It's my baby. I started it, and for a certain time, it was everything. It was everything for me. It kept me going when Steve was poorly, and it gave me a lifeline afterwards. And I always use the terminology angels and warriors, and it's something I'm really, really passionate about. And so I said to Tony, it would be really nice if we could take some angels and warriors with us on the swim. I use the word we quite loosely, because I'm not putting a swimming costume on and doing that swim for nobody. So the original idea was we were going to get wristbands with people's names put on them, and they would take them. I put it out on Weekend Wipeout. Would anybody like their angels or their warriors have a wristband? And the numbers started coming in. And I think the first year we had 120 names. And I was like, oh, we're not going to get wristbands made with individual names on them. So we had, that year we had, we should have brought all of them. So we had a white wristband with the logo of Swimming the Solent on. And I know there's people in this room that have had a wristband every year in honour of their wonderful angels. And a certificate goes with it. And that first year, because we had 120, we could actually allocate to a swimmer. And I could give that swimmer those wristbands, and they would give them me back, my little jewels, and I could tell everybody who had been their swimmer. As it's got more and more, that's become a little bit harder. But I have them all back, and literally, at that point, I knew that that wristband had been swam by that person, and it was going to that person. Now I just know that every one of them has been in the water, as I've just unwrapped those, and there's still sand on them. And I know some people get sand in their envelopes because I don't wash them. They've got seawater on if you want to lick them and taste them. And they go to America, South Africa. We've recently lost Just, and my son has swam with this wristband twice.
I've done it once. And
you've done it once, and that has gone to him and to his family. Australia, we have a wonderful family, Adam Regal, that has lost both his father and his uncle, and himself, who is suffering. So he has 3, and he wears them. Everywhere that you can imagine. Rio, New Zealand, Holland, Argentina, Ireland, obviously lots and lots in this country. But I think we were trying to remember on the way up, I think last year's count was just under 300 wristbands. And I send every one of them out. Bless her, my assistant at work writes every certificate because she has the nicest handwriting. These are our certificates, if you'd like to look at them. They change every year. My daughter designed them with our angels and warriors, wing staff for fighting a good fight. So it's a bit of a family thing really. I involve everybody. We change our colour every year. We have a friend in Tennessee, and she's framed every one of hers, April. And that's the story of them really, and it just gets, I'm hoping it'll just get more and more every year. One thing I would like to point out, because on social media it was highlighted and it actually upset me greatly, is I personally pay for every postage, and every one posted to abroad is £5, and I physically pay for every one that goes out. It doesn't come out of the MND Foundation money, it doesn't come from the MNDA like it was reported on social media that it did. There's nothing to do with anybody. It was something that we chose personally to do. doesn't come out of the swimming money, doesn't come out of anywhere. I physically pay for everything. So, and I'm happy to do that. But just so everybody does know. So if you have any members of family that you would like a wristband for, then please let any of the Manchester branch know, and they'll forward all the details on from it. Obviously, the one thing I do ask for, and it can sometimes be a bit awkward really, I've actually got 7 wristbands from last year. I'm still awaiting addressing on. Obviously, I need the address to be able to send it to you, but some don't like giving me their address. So if you've got an address that you want it to go to, if you don't want me to know it, that's fine. But to be able to send you the wristband and the certificate, I need an address to do it too. But and I don't mind if you have several members. You have lots of angels that you want them to go to, or you have the mighty warriors that would like them, or you know, just get a message to me, however, with your details. I do like to know the name of the person that it's been swum for, because they go on our roll of honour, and obviously, and if they're an angel or warrior, because the last thing I want to do is send an envelope to somebody that I've not been told what they are, and it unfortunately it'd be an angel, and somebody, a loved one's getting a post through that says, you know, Mr. Joe Bloggs, and Mr. Joe Bloggs isn't here anymore. So I need to know the care of who it's got to go to. But other than that, so every year, every swimmer, and they have lots, don't they? They have all up their arms, the wristbands, and then I go into panic mode afterwards, collect them all out. Make sure I've got to sit there and I count them all out, so I know, don't I?
You've got a photograph of me.
Yeah, in stress because I've got a bundle missing, and then that happens. So it's normally a couple of months after the swim that I manage to get them all sorted, get the certificates done, and get them posted out. But I can assure you, you will get, if you've put your name down or a loved one's name, you will get it, and I can get them written out.
I don't know. We've got something on here.
So that's me. That's the wristbands. I don't think I've missed anything about them, have I?
No.
And hopefully they'll just get more and more and more. We have 48 swimmers. I want them to float.
We've got 60 this year.
We've got 60 this year, so I want them to float. And just because you've had them 1 year doesn't mean to say that that's it. We have some that have had them every year, and that's what we want. So we want that list. I don't want the list to increase because of MND. I want it to increase because they, believe it or not, help every swimmer. It's something that is very...
I can tell people
Right,
about
go,
that.
bye.
I
said I wasn't going to
talk. Very poor
right, okay. This here, this little bit here, is what the harbour master says about the Solent swim. It's really complex, the Solent. You've got the water that wants to come down the bottom of England. It gets split by this diamond shape, and it goes everywhere. And it says swimming across the Solent is not just another open water swim. It should not be. You need to take notice.
No, he needs to cover his ears.
You do?
Yeah.
It should not be undertaken without considerable preparation. Whilst not as difficult as swimming across the channel, we'll find out soon. The cross-Solent swimmer has to cross at least one busy shipping lane, negotiate round ferries and hovercraft travelling to and from the Isle of Wight, and avoid all the many pleasure boats using the Solent. Currents are very strong, and currents and tides are very strong and complex and cannot be ignored. So it's a tough swim, and because of the swim it is, we get a lot of interest because there's only two ways. Every swim has to be signed off by the harbour master, and there's only 2 charities that do this. One is us, and another is a company called Aspire, which is for people who have had spinal injuries. With Aspire, the minimum fundraise is £1,200, and they take your credit card details, and if you don't raise it, they take it off your credit card. We're not quite that vicious. We insist that every swimmer raises at least 250 quid. We have occasionally had queries from swimmers, and I politely point out that they ought to do some research into MND first before they say they can't do it. I explained what MND is, and I explained to one guy last night all about MND, and I said, listen mate, you've got 5 months to raise this 250 quid. That's 126 days, 6 people die every day. By the time you've decided whether you're going to do it or not, 756 people are going to have died in the UK. Sort it. And he came back this morning, can I have a sponsor form please? So we don't generally have a problem. Anyway, year 2 we had 22 swimmers, 21 made it across. Year 3 we had 37. We cancelled it 5 times because of the weather conditions. It was an absolute nightmare. Once every 10 years you get bad weather on the Solent, that just happened to be that year. We managed to get 37 swimmers across. I can't remember what we raised. If this was working, I could tell you. I can tell you what the total is, and I'll tell you that at the end. 2015, that was 37. Last year, which you young ladies came down to watch, didn't you? All
Yeah.
3 of you came down to watch it. Perhaps you'd like to say what you thought.
Fantastic. Brilliant.
I don't remember.
Very emotional.
Very,
Very emotional. Yeah, very emotional.
yeah, it's quite emotional.
Very well organised.
Thank you. I mean, the harbour master won't let you do it. You're crossing shipping lanes. You've got ferries, hovercrafts, and it's actually as a swimmer, you don't notice any of that. You're just plodding along. It's as a kayaker in a safety boat, you realise what's actually happening, and it's frightening.
You've got your radio on the wrong channel and nobody's talking to you.
Yeah, we have to do radio
They put
courses.
me in wrong.
Sarah couldn't understand why nobody was talking, so she was on the wrong channel.
You feel very guilty when you're all going off swimming and we go off for breakfast whilst you...
And I'm green because I'm the only one for being sick.
Yeah.
Ian says you're pinching his girls.
Oh, you're pinching his girls.
No, you're all right, mate.
You can have them back.
Yeah, last year we had 41. There is a limit to the number of swimmers you can have on the Solent because you're crossing shipping lanes. The harbour master will only let you have so many. The maximum is 24 per crossing. That's too many to cope with. You've got about 500-yard shipping channel, and you need all the swimmers together at that point. In 2014, we had they were spread out over a mile, and it was just a nightmare. So we've restricted it now. So last year, 41 swimmers, 40 crossed. In the 4 years that we've been doing it, we have had 103 attempts, and 101 of those have been successful. So 101 people have swum the Solent for motor neurone disease. The wristbands, there are times, the first year when I swam it, there was no wind, the sea was dead calm, it was like being in a swimming pool, just dirty. And it wasn't a problem, I landed where I wanted to land, and the second year, not the same. Definitely not the same. We were going over there, and the current was taking us over there. And the wristbands, okay, you're wearing these wristbands, but the only thing you can see in the Solent is your hand. You can't see much further than that. And you're looking at these wristbands and you're thinking, well, I'm thinking, well, that's April from Tennessee, that's Dion, that's Ian, it's Liam Dwyer, these are all my mates and they're coming with me, and I'm going to get them over there. And it was so motivational to do that, because you're letting these people down and you cannot do it. They can't swim it, they've got M&D, you can, you have to finish. And quite a few swimmers say that it really is very, very motivational for them. Once we've done the swim, all the swimmers will get one of these, and these are, we change them every year. This is mine from last year, I want it back. We can pass it around. This is a paperweight, and one of the guys that did the swim 2014, Ed, who's just got married, he runs a glass blowing factory on the Isle of Wight called Glory Art Glass. Every single one of those is hand blown, and they're all different. They're all the same but different, if you understand what I mean.
They'll have the same theme, but
Yeah.
they're all bespoke.
They're all different because you can't do the same every time. And we change them every year. And then the kayakers get one of these. Don't drop this. This is mine from last year.
Yeah, Tiger's devastated. Me moving a few weeks ago, he broke it. And he was like, I wonder if I can glue it together. And it was in like 1,000 ways. We just seemed to find one that we had spare to replace.
Yeah.
Did you have kayakers the first year? Or
Yeah, we had 8 kayakers the first year. Once
and then
they
you
grew up.
built up.
Yeah. every swimmer has to have a kayaker, because you can't see, it's 3 miles across, you can't see the other side. Every swimmer has to have one kayaker. Sometimes when the slow swimmers we put 2 on.
No, we'll have one of those ones.
Just as a,
1 second, I'll just get a picture.
just to give you an idea of what goes into this, here are my spreadsheets for this year. This is the list of swimmers one way. This is the list of swimmers another way. That's the menu for my Christmas dinner.
Well, that's very important. Do swim was quite important.
It was rubbish, wasn't it? It was a nice restaurant, the food was rubbish.
Artichoke ice cream.
I tried that though. Maybe I do.
Yeah, I didn't.
This is the. This here is the very, very simple and easy to understand risk assessment. That goes to the Harbour Master. You're quite welcome to read it if you really want to. It goes to how many pages that is.
A bit like when we used to run the raft race. People weren't like that.
Yeah, it's lots of paper. But this covers what to do in an emergency, how many safety boats you have, what radio channels you're supposed to be on, and all that sort of stuff. The only thing we ask is that people raise money for motor neuron disease, and now we have 2 charities which we raise money for. Ian Pratt has formed his own foundation now, and people can raise for Ian Pratt Foundation if they want to, or they can raise for the Motor Neuron Disease Association. We don't mind, we don't push people down any road. We'll wait for that young man to stop again. We don't push them down any road. It's completely up to them. It's their choice who they raise money for, as long as it's for somebody, as long as it's for motor neuron disease, one way or the other. There's a few people that we need to mention. There's a guy called Richard Dawson who's got familial MD in his family, and I don't know how he keeps going and so positive because he's one of 3 brothers. So there's a chance that unfortunately he might, or one of those 3 will suffer. But he organises the kayakers for us. Well, this year he's done it, and he's taken that off my plate, which is fantastic. Sarah does all the Angels and Warriors. Thank you very much. Wristbands. I do everything else. There's another guy called Bray who's a kayaker who lives on the island. He knows the waters very well. We've got a company called Rebel Marine who let us have their ribs for safety boats, and they only charge us for the petrol, or diesel, sorry. They don't charge us for hire, and it's £600 a day to hire their ribs. We hire 2 ribs from them for 2 days, and they only charge us for fuel, which is amazing. There's a company called Brent Marine who give us radios for nothing. The swimming pool and ride let us hire their facilities for nothing. Ed makes these, and these are 45 to 50 quid each. He sells them to us for 20 quid each. Well, a bit more this year. If you got married, you needed a bit more, so we get.
I think his dad's been moaning at him.
I think he's dead.
Family.
He's got 60
Family
of those.
business.
He's got 60 of those. Well, more than that, because one goes to Ian every year. I don't know, 30 of those. And he does that for next to nothing. What else do we have? There's a right next to where we finish on the Isle of Wight. There's a cafe. They let us have their facilities for nothing, and then they put on a buffet for the swimmers at the end, and a few beers because we do like a beer afterwards once we finish. And they only charge us next to nothing, don't they? So because it's for charity, everybody mucks in, and that's it. One of the other things we've done, Sarah and I have. Oh, by the way, after the first swim, Sarah and I sort of liked each other a little bit.
Too much information.
And we used to correspond via email, of course, and via the internet, and we sort of got together after the first swim, quite a few months after, and we had a long distance sort of relationship for about a year and a bit. I stayed on the island, didn't want to. It's not a lot to do there. Every time you want to go to anywhere other than Marks and Spencer's, it's 52 quid on the ferry. It's not great.
Cheaper to swim.
It is.
Princess Anne did tell him that.
Yeah. Actually, that's exactly what Princess Anne told me.
She told you it was easier to go on the ferry than
Why
swim.
don't you get the ferry? But since then, we've sort of that long distance relationship has become much closer, and we actually got engaged on the 2nd of January this year.
Woo!
It's really embarrassing now. A couple of other things that Sarah and I have done to fundraise for MND is, you know the film The Theory of Everything? Yeah. Did people do a bucket collection?
Oh, we did.
Did you?
We did.
Do you know how that started?
Yes, I believe so. Yeah.
Do you know how it started? We went to Cineworld. We went to Cineworld on the Isle of Wight. Said, "Can we do this on when the film comes out, 2nd of January?" Yeah, you can do it with us. So, or can we do it with a few others? We asked a few of our friends. They said, "Yeah, we would like to do it." Oh, sod that. We went to Cineworld nationally and said, "Can we do this for motor neuron disease on the opening night?" Yes. So we organised that and on that night, 25 grand was raised on it, and that was
27.5, I think it was.
or whatever it was. But we brokered that deal with Cineworld. The association told us not to tell anybody, but now it's happened, we can tell you. We mentioned earlier on a guy called Juiced. Does anybody watch? Has anybody been watching the news recently about a guy called used to play rugby for South Africa? Yeah.
Yeah.
A guy called Juiced van der Westhuizen. He was scrum half for South Africa in the 1995 World Cup. I wasn't even born then. I don't know. He came over in October 2015 when the World Cup was being played in England, the Rugby World Cup, and he had a film made about his life and about his battles with MND. Now he's an amazing guy because he was, if you like, he was the David Beckham of South African rugby. He was on television, he was everywhere. He was diagnosed in 2012 with motor neuron disease. 2011, sorry, yeah, and he could have, with the money he had and everything else, he could have just disappeared. But I don't know what you know about MND in South Africa, but there is no health service, you pay for everything you get. They don't get anything. And he wanted to change that. So what he did was he formed a foundation called the J9 Foundation, and he went all round South Africa meeting everybody who's got MND. He lobbied, he went to America, went in all sorts of places trying to raise money for MND, and he was, it's called, MND is called juice disease in South Africa. Anyway, in October 2015, he was in the UK. He wanted, or his producer wanted this film shown in the UK. It's not out in the UK at the moment, but he wanted it shown. So, because of our profile, social media and all that sort of stuff, I had a message from the J9 Foundation. Can you sort something out for us? So on, I can't remember the date in October, it was the UK premiere, you were out of your, yeah, back, yeah, the UK premiere of the Glory Game, the Juice van der Westhuizen story, was shown in the massive market town of Telford, Shropshire.
We had a sellout.
Yeah.
And we had a sellout, and
red carpet.
the guest of honour was no other than Juice van der Westhuizen, who sat about here and laughed all the way through. Sadly, he died 2 weeks ago.
6th of February.
Yeah, sadly he passed away 6th of February. But what they did do, the J9 Foundation, they came over with loads and loads of DVDs, and they just left them with us. And
We've been selling them ever
we've
since.
been selling them ever since. They're a tenner each. I thoroughly recommend you you watch that.
It was sold in the
Massively inspiring, and we even went for a pint with them after, isn't it?
That was the best bit.
It's not often you can say you've been for a pint with a World Cup winner, is it?
Can I just say something really, really weird?
Yeah.
I was reading Gareth Thomas's autobiography.
Proud. Yeah.
Proud. And
Yeah.
guess what I read on the 6th? His tribute to him. On
Yeah.
the date. And then I looked on social media and he died that day. And I actually read the tribute in his book that day.
It's amazing, isn't
Oh.
it?
That's
We
right,
laughed
you what
because
date
we
it
were
was.
kicked out of the pub at closing time, and used to still got like half a pint of beer, and he was such a phenomenal character. You know, this guy couldn't speak, but he spoke in so many different ways. And Peter, his brother, turned around to him and was like, come on, drink up. You're normally faster than this. And I just piped up. And I'm not normally very funny. So I think it was obviously the tablets I was on. I just piped up. So he's been talking too much. We just literally fell about laughing. I thought I killed him because he was choking so much because he was laughing. But, you know, we all had tears. And it was the best bit, wasn't it? So he was talking too much.
Yeah. There's a poem here. There's a guy called Philip Bell who moved to the island December time. He slipped through the net because on the Isle of Wight everybody is diagnosed in Southampton because there's nothing on the island, and they tell us, who used to tell us, I used to be chairman on the island, they tell everybody, so there's nobody that slips through the net, we always know. He got diagnosed where he used to live, somewhere in London, but he's from the island, he moved back. He wrote this poem. He wrote children's books and poetry, really good poetry, funny stuff. But he wrote this for me. Can you read it, or shall I read it to you?
Oh, go on, yeah, read it.
I'll read it to you. I'll read it off here. The Solent Swim. The rushing waters in the sea bring forth an image not just to me. Inspiration, it's not just there. Hearts are washed to make life fair. To swim the Solent is really tough. Currents and waves often rough. And more to face with excess shipping. Any thoughts of ease are always stripping. Each year we see brave people swim, venturing forth in the Solent gym, accompanied by kayakers for safety's sake, and organise such work they make. Oops. Yeah. Why all this? It's a motor neuron disease, raising funds and awareness across the sea breeze. Angels and warriors, past and present, are carried in wristbands in the swimming event. With every pound raised, we are finding a cure. With every swim done, life becomes pure. And all who take part or support this event are blessed by the angels and warriors still present. That was Philip Bell. He wrote that on the 4th of October 2015. He died on the 10th. He was fantastic. He used to go around
He's on
with
the
me.
videos, isn't he?
He's on the videos. We wanted to show you some videos. On this website we've got videos of various swims. We've got short videos and there's an hour-long documentary which is pretty good if you people don't know about M&D because it's all about that. There's a video of the first swim, but there's some short videos of other swims as well. And Philip's on there chuckling away, giving a thumbs up because he can't talk. But he used to accompany me to every time I did a presentation for M&D on the Isle of Wight, he was always with me. I miss him dearly. Anyway, I just wanted to finish with, it's very difficult to know exactly how much the swimmers raised because not everybody goes as far just giving. But I was getting ready for this year's swim, which is very much organised, or pretty much organised, and I went through the Just Giving pages, setting up this year's team page, and I added up what the team pages have been for the last 3 years. Does anybody want to give me a guess as to how much is on those Just Giving pages? This is excluding gift aid, and all of this money has gone to MNDA. On top of that, £4 has gone to Ian Pratt. But this money has gone to, anyone want to give me a guess? No idea? No idea? Okay, I'll tell you. 40? 40. Well, that's close. £84,890.65.
Oh my goodness.
Plus 20% for gift aid.
And that's without any money that's gone direct.
Yeah.
When you say 4,000 to Ian Pratt, please can I just say, it doesn't go to Ian Pratt, it goes to the foundation.
Yeah, Ian Pratt Foundation, sorry. But that's us, that's what we do. We do it every year. we do what else we can. We put events on to raise money because we can't ask the same people all the time, so we have a fun disco, lots of northern soul and ska, which is great. That's how I get my sponsorship in, but that's what we do. Any questions?
What's the average swim time?
Depends on the current.
We'll go out, so yeah, just saying like maybe on a decent day.
If the Solent's really flat and the current's low, you probably do it an hour and a half. If it's not, you're talking 3 hours.
Yeah, I was just saying, yeah.
It's, you know, it just depends. I'm not a fast swimmer, but I can keep going. I think my quickest is about 2.5 hours. I've done it 4 times now. This year I'm doing a double crossing, so I'm doing it both ways on the same day. And next year I'm doing a bigger swim. I'm swimming for the Impact Foundation and for my boss is paying for this actually, because the only reason I haven't done it before is it costs £3 grand and I haven't got £3 grand. But this costs £3 grand to put on, but we raise that money somehow or other. I just happened to mention to him that I really wanted to do this challenge, but I couldn't because there are issues. And he said, "What are they?" I said, "I can't afford it." He said, "Right, how much is it?" I said, "Well, it's about £3 grand, or 3.5." He said, "I'll pay. You're doing it." So I will be swimming from Shakespeare Beach in Dover to Calais in 2018.
Oh my goodness.
I was excited about that, but you're not.
Yeah,
You don't get married until afterwards.
Stacey's husband Andrew is swimming
And
the
yes.
Swimming the Solent this year.
And this year we have a guy sat next to me,
Who's doing it? Yeah.
and I've just roped in Stacey to help me.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And I do have a sponsor farm.
Responsible as everybody wants to do it.
Thank you to those who already have.
But that's it, guys. That's what we do. We've done it for 5 years. It'll be the 5th year it's happened now, and it will keep happening until
Georgie could swim.
I promised I would do it until Georgiana would swim for her dad. She never says how old she is. She's always next birthday, so she's 7 next birthday, isn't she?
Yeah.
So I've got another 10 years to this.
And it was also commented on because the last 2 years she's given, before the swim, every swimmer gets the swimming hat that's all, it's all marked out with the swim logo and everything. And they're given all their wristbands and their toe floats and all their hat and everything. And she lines them all up. These men, well, and women, but she lines them all up and she gives them to them. And everybody was like, oh, they just all fall in love with our Georgiana, our little mouse. So, but 1 year she'll be doing it for her daddy.
Yeah, and then I can stop.
Hand over the button.
Yeah. And over.
And how do you train? Like,
How do you
you
train?
must have
Every day.
Or, yeah, is it swimming every day literally?
Yeah, 7 o'clock. Well, I can't train after I've eaten because I sink. I eat too much. I train. I basically train on any day that ends in a Y. But no, I train Monday to Friday. I have Saturdays off where I go do park shuffle. I don't call it park run because I just shuffle around. And Sundays is family day, and we do stuff. Well, Saturday from 10:30 onwards. That's it. But you might have noticed I'm not quite as young as Andrew, so I have to put a lot more in. And
Have you started yet?
yeah, he's been training.
Yeah, he's doing really well.
Brilliant.
Yeah, I swim at least a mile every morning. And obviously when the weather gets a bit warmer, we'll be in the sea and in Bala Lake. I swam Coniston last year, which is 5.25 miles. Well, when you think that in 2012 I was 21 stone, I could just do a length. But it's changed my life. I've met so many inspirational people, people with MND and their families, and once you've seen it, you have a choice, don't you? You either turn your back and pretend you've never seen it, or you get stuck in. Greg does stuff that I could never do, because I haven't got the patience to do that. I can do this, so I'll do this.
Anna's been our great supporter of the swim.
Yeah,
year
and
two.
Greg's
Travelled down there
Yeah.
and helped us. Great.
You know, we've all got a skill of some sort, and it doesn't matter what it is. You just do what you can do. I find this relatively easy, a bit stressful, but I don't find it a problem. I couldn't do what Greg does. Take my hat off to you, mate, because I couldn't go and talk to those people and keep my cool. But well done.
Thank you.
Anybody got any more questions?
No.
How do you cope with the cold?
It's not cold.
It's not cold.
18 degrees in the Solent.
Is it?
Yeah. It's only about 6 degrees less than a swimming pool. It's not that cold. I mean, it is in April, you know, coming up, but it's not really that cold. And we have wetsuits, but I'm not wearing one this year because I'm not allowed to wear one on the channel, so I've got to get used to it.
So what dates this year?
17th and 18th of July.
Anything.
If you've got the internet at home, you can Google it. I was hoping to show you the website, and there's loads of those. Excuse me. There's loads and loads of information on the website, and I could just take you through the website. That'd take me 3 hours. But if you go on,
You start in the Isle of Wight and swim. Which way do you go?
you can only have 24 people per crossing.
Yeah.
Right, and we've got 32 swimming on the first day. So what we've got is we've got 16 swimming one way, and then when the tide turns and the currents are right, we've got 16 swimming back. And the second day, we've got 14 each way. And that's how we're doing it. And so we've actually got 20 kayakers on the first day, and we've got 15 on the second day. So we're at capacity just about. Because we can't do it on the weekends, because the Solent is, well, you can do smaller swims on weekends, but when you've got that many people, the harbour master won't let it happen, because the Solent's full of people in leisure craft. And I have to say that I was kayaking last year on the Friday afternoon, which was let's go have a beer and go out on the boat time with people, and they don't see you. They don't see the kayakers, they don't see the swimmers. The swimmers have got bright orange caps, got bright orange tow floats, they've got a kayaker with them, and they just come out of the harbour with the beer and they don't see you. So that's why you have to have safety boats, and that's...
One almost went into the safety boat.
Yeah, one of the safety boat cut him up to try and stop him. And when you've got those ships, people on the bridge there, they have got a blind spot of 500 metres in front of them. They can't see over the bows of front, so that's why you've got to be careful, and that's why it's restricted. But, so anyway.
Cower.
Maybe you should stay home.
It's
how dangerous it is. Just look how much he needs to be sponsored.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it.
You'll be fine with the kayakers. We've never had an issue. We've never had an issue. We've never had a safety issue. We've had 3 people that have had to be pulled out of the water because they're just not up to it. Every swimmer has to do a pretty rigorous fitness test, and if they don't pass that, they don't go. 1 year, one person lied. He hadn't done it, and it's pretty obvious. He got pulled out of the water very soon. Because if you're not up to it, you're putting everybody else in danger, because you have to stay together. If you can't stay with them, everybody's going to stop for you. And if you stop too long, you're going to miss your tide window. So, I've talked enough.
Well, thank you very much, Tony and
No
Sandra, and thank you for travelling up here to talk to us.